Hey everyone, it's me, Nicole, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about Harper's first week of life. So where I left off in my labor and delivery video was when she was getting all weighed and everything like that, and I found out that she was 9 pounds 11 ounces and 22 inches long. So I was in complete shock because I had no idea that I could even carry an almost 10-pound baby. You guys had seen in some of my previous videos that I was kind of like saying, oh, I'm not scared of an 8-pound baby, no big deal, I'm not afraid of that. And then yeah, she ended up being almost 10 pounds. So wow, I was completely shocked. Like, that was not a number that I had even contemplated, honestly. I thought maybe she was going to be like 8 pounds 7 ounces, but never did I think that she was going to be almost 10 pounds. So she was a chunky baby. So basically, as they were cleaning her off, it was really funny because I hear Robert, and I knew that she had pooped whenever she was inside of me still, and I hear Robert say, she's pooping, and the nurses, you know, they're used to all that, and he's like, she's still going, she's like, she will not stop pooping. So I guess like the whole time that they were cleaning her off and the whole time that they were over there doing their little you know, newborn evaluations and things like that, she was using the bathroom. She was passing meconium all over the place. So that was pretty funny. But as soon as they got her all done up and they got a diaper put on her and they got her swaddled, they brought her over to me and they told me that I could hold her. And at this point my arms were still strapped down to the table, and so I actually could not hold her. So I told the anesthesiologist, you know, can you please untie me? And so he untied my arm and I lifted it up and I like went to go bring it over, and come to find out that I completely had no strength in my arm. I could move it and I could move my fingers, but I couldn't grasp. It just had no strength, and so I didn't want to risk holding her because I didn't want to drop her. But the nurse held her there for a good couple of minutes, and I got to kiss her and talk to her, and that was really, really nice. And so they took her out of the room because they needed to check her blood sugar because she was so big. So anytime that a baby is over 9 pounds, they check their blood sugar to make sure that they are recovering well from being away from mom. I was not gestational diabetic, so yeah, but anyways, so they checked her blood sugar. It was a little bit low, and so they came and asked me if it was okay to give her a little bit of formula to bring that up. And I was kind of sad because I didn't want her to have, you know, anything other than my milk, especially for her first feeding, but I didn't want, you know, I didn't know what other choice I had. I mean, I couldn't breastfeed her right at that moment, and so she's had 1 ounce of formula. But right after she had the ounce of formula, they brought her into me in the recovery room, and I was able to breastfeed her. I couldn't, again, I still didn't have the strength back in my arms and my hands, so the nurse somehow undressed me. I don't really remember how that happened. I was so exhausted, and so I'm not really sure. There's bits and pieces missing, but somehow the nurse undressed me, unbuttoned my gown enough to feed her, and so she nursed for a couple minutes, and it was really, really nice that they were able to do that. So so after that, I was in the recovery room for about an hour and a half. They took the baby back to the nursery just while I was finishing up in recovery and while I was getting my strength back. I tried to rest in the recovery room for like the little hour and a half that I had. Oh my! Tooter booter! I tried to rest in the recovery room, but I don't know, there was just so much emotion running through me that, I mean, I had my eyes closed, but I just couldn't sleep. So got back to the postpartum room. They brought her into us, and we didn't get any sleep. We were just loving on her and talking about her and oohing and ahhing over her and deciding on her name. And as we were getting to know her, we kind of went through the list of names in our heads, and Harper was the one that fit. None of the other ones seemed right, so Harper is her name. And Rose is in memory of my cousin Caitlin Rose. So so her name's Harper Rose. We started calling and texting everybody about 8 a.m. I don't remember the last time that Robert went and like updated my parents that night. I want to say it was around midnight or 1 a.m. whenever he updated the last time. but they didn't know that I was going in for surgery. Everything kind of happened really quickly once it was decided that we were going to do the C-section, so we didn't let them know or anything like that. So we didn't want to text them at 3 a.m. even though they told us that we could, but we didn't want them to have to rush in the morning, and we were kind of enjoying our little time just being Robert and I and the baby. We knew that once they came up with Sadie, Robert was going to have to kind of keep an eye on Sadie, and he was going to have to take her home for the night, and there was just not going to be a lot of time for us to be just the three of us, so we wanted to take that time. So they came up, I want to say around 10 or so, 10 a.m. and Sadie met her sister for the first time, and I have footage of that, and I will put the link in the description box below if you want to go see that and check that video out. It was so sweet. I'm so glad that we got that footage. I really, really cherish it. I watch it all the time because I just love it. Did you hear that? Oh my goodness. And yeah, so then my parents visited, my brother came, and it was really, really nice. And, you know, we just kind of hung out. The first 24 hours of Harper's life, she was really, really fussy and just seemed really, really stressed out. I was feeding her constantly, and, you know, of course, whenever my mom was there, she wanted to hold her, and so, you know, I had been feeding her for a little while, and I thought she was done eating, so I took her off, and I let my mom hold her, and she was still fussing and just really, really upset. And my mom is an infant room teacher at a daycare, and so she was doing all these little techniques trying to calm her and soothe her, and nothing was working. And so I just told my mom, I said, that's how she's been for, you know, the whole day. And my mom was like, oh, you know, she probably just needs to eat again. She's probably just hungry again. So I fed her. You know, I was just constantly feeding her all the time. And then that night, Robert took Sadie home, and the nurse came in. The nurse, they were changing shifts, and the nurse came in, and she said, how do you feel about taking a walk? And yes, at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., the night that I had my surgery, I had the surgery at 3 a.m., and by 10 p.m. I was up and walking, and we went for a walk. And the baby had been like upset, and so then we went for a walk, and she was like instantly calm. She loved going for a walk. I don't know what it was, but the motion just really soothed her. So we went for a walk, and then we came back into the hospital room, and I asked the nurse if I should be concerned about how fussy she was, and she, you know, proceeded to tell me these different techniques of how to soothe the baby. And I'm like, dude, I know, you know, I know all these things. I'm not this isn't my first time at the rodeo, you know, but I just kind of was polite, and I was like, oh, thank you, you know, but I just there was something not right. And so the next day, it was about 10 o'clock. They wanted to take her for her hearing screening, and so I wanted to go with her. I didn't want to be separated from her at all. So I went with her down to get the hearing screening, and she was sleeping. And she immediately woke up as soon as we got into the room, and they tried to stick those things in her ears. And she wasn't too happy about that. We had tried to give her a pacifier because she was so fussy that we tried, you know, we tried to give her the pacifier. She didn't want to have anything to do with it. So whenever we went to the hearing screening, they suggested a pacifier, and I told them, I said, she doesn't like pacifiers, she just wants the boob all the time. And so they tried and gave her one of the hospital pacifiers, and she actually took it, but she was sucking so vigorously that it threw off the results of the hearing screening, and so that didn't work either. So I took her back into the hallway, and the nurse this was a different nurse in the morning, and I had already kind of voiced my concerns to her as well. And the nurse said, you know, she said, I think I want to have the pediatrician take a look at her, because you're right. This is the calmest I've seen her the whole time that I've been on my shift, and she's still like tense. So the pediatrician came over and let us know that she wanted Harper to go into the special care nursery, or the NICU. Oh, and I was so upset. And Robert had just showed up, so he thought that he was going to be able to spend all this time with the baby, and that we were going to be a family of 4, and we were just all going to be together. And he walks into hearing that the baby was going to have to go to the NICU. And Sadie was not allowed in the NICU. You have to be 16 years old at this particular hospital to visit in the NICU. And so it was going to be tough, because one of us had to stay with Sadie at all times, and I had to be in the room breastfeeding her pretty often. And so it just really, really stunk, and we were not happy about it, but at the same time we knew something wasn't right. There was just something off. And anyways, they did some blood tests on her and determined that they thought that she might have signs of an infection. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know if she actually did have an infection, but her white blood cell count was high, and so they decided to start her on a course of antibiotics. So, and then over the next couple of days, they continued to do blood tests. Oh my goodness. And they decided eventually that she was going to need a 5-day course of antibiotics. So she went into the NICU on Tuesday. Wasn't going to get discharged until Sunday. And the latest I was going to be discharged was Friday. And so I was really, really upset. I was bitter. I was jealous of all the other moms that just get to come in the hospital, pop out their babies, and go home. And you know, this has happened to me twice now where I've had a baby in the NICU. And the first time with Sadie, I knew she was going to be in the NICU, so it wasn't a surprise. But with Harper, I just thought that we were, you know, the baby was so healthy and we were going to just be able to have our baby and be together in the hospital room and leave all together. And it was just really upsetting to me. And so, and also, if you guys have followed my journey at all, you guys know that my grandma's been really sick. She's actually been battling sickness for about 14 years, but things had started getting really, really bad pretty much since Caitlin passed away. Probably like a week before Caitlin passed away, things were getting really, really not so good. And so we were in the hospital. Harper was born on Monday, and my grandma passed away on Wednesday. So, which actually, a side note, it was pretty crazy because the room number that I was in was room number 1110, and the hospital room that my grandma was in at a completely different hospital. She was in Chicago and I was in a suburb. She actually was on the 11th floor and her room number was 10, so it was really, really nuts. So yeah, that week was really, really stressful, and my husband kind of let the nurses know how stressed I was and just how things were kind of like absolutely not going the way that we had planned them to go. And things don't go the way that you plan them to go. It's life. But just the year that we've had, and it was just over the top, and this was the one thing that we were supposed to be like celebrating and happy about, and it was supposed to be the light of our, you know, year, and even this was like having problems. So he let the nurse know that, and the nurse came to my room. He went down to the NICU and was talking to the nurse down there. The nurse came back up to my room and said, you know what, it's okay, we're gonna figure this all out. Anything that you want to do, you know, you're the mom, we don't want to take control away from you, you know, we're just here to care for your baby and give her the medicine that she needs. You are making all the calls, you are calling all the shots, and you know, since you're going to be discharged either on Thursday or Friday, you know, we have a little room off to the side of the NICU, and we can put Harper in there and we can set up a little cot for you so that you can stay with her those extra couple of days. And that was amazing. I know how rare that is. That's completely over the top, going beyond the call of duty. I was so, I can't even describe the feeling. I was just so relieved that I wasn't going to have to be separated from her for those extra couple of days. And it just, I was so happy because Harper was being taken care of and I was going to be able to stay with her. And yeah, so those are the main things that I wanted to talk about while I was down there in the NICU. At first they were waking her up every 2 hours, and I was going down there every 2 hours to feed her, but they found out that she really wasn't in the mood to eat. All she would do is cry. She didn't want to eat. She just wanted to go back to sleep. And so whenever I switched nurses, I had like a younger crew of nurses at first until they found out how stressed out I was, and then they switched to like an older group of nurses. I don't know if that was just a coincidence or if I was just a high maintenance mom and they wanted to give me more experienced nurses, but it was like a complete switch in the attitude of nurses that I had. The first group was kind of like, this is how we do things, you know, and they kind of were telling me what to do and I wasn't having that. And then the more experienced nurses, they switched to the more experienced nurses and they were really hands off, and they were just kind of like, this is the treatment that we're going to do, but other than that, you can come feed her whenever you want, you can come pick her up whenever you want, you know, and what have you. So, oh, and also, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, they had tested her bilirubin for jaundice, and it was like right on the borderline. And then this was still the point where I thought that we might only have to do a 3-day course of antibiotics. And so I told them, because with Sadie what had happened was they got her completely fixed. They had her heart rate regulated, and she was able to regulate her own temperature and everything, and she was ready to be discharged from the hospital. And then they were like, oh, but she's jaundiced, so we're going to keep her for an extra 24 hours. And so that was not fun, you know. And so I told them, I said, you know what, if you have any inkling that she may be jaundiced, I just want you to go ahead and put her under the lights. I just want to go ahead and treat her, and you know, I just don't want it to be an extra 24 hours on top of her other treatment when I'm already, you know, going to be discharged before her. So, and I had those last couple of days were wonderful. I had great nurses in the NICU. Here, I'll lift her up. She has a little bit of newborn rash, but I'll talk about that in another video. She's actually 1 month old right now, so yeah, look at the chunky monkey. Look at the double chin. You big baby. Yeah. So the last couple of days I was able to stay in a little room with Harper, and she was just in a bassinet. She wasn't in one of the little isolettes or the warmer beds. She didn't have to have any of that. She was perfectly fine just being in a bassinet, and she of course had all the monitors on her and everything like but yeah, all they basically did was come in and give her the antibiotics when she needed them and flush her IV every once in a while, and they came and checked on me, and every time I fed her they weighed her before and after just to make sure that she was getting enough, which she absolutely was. And that was basically it. I just hung out with the NICU nurses. I did Sudoku. So yeah, so that's kind of what we did. We hung out for those 2 days, and it was just me and her in the room, and it was kind of nice because, you know, I basically had the experience of how it would be at home, but I did have the support of the nurses if I wanted them. And then Robert came up and visited as much as he could, but he had Sadie, and Sadie couldn't come in the NICU, so as much as we could, we took turns visiting and things like that. And then finally on Sunday, this was for some reason just a really busy week in the NICU, and so they were running out of room. Her numbers were looking good, and her course of antibiotics was up, so she got her little pictures done. We got her little pictures done on the last day. I packed up all of our stuff and called my parents and asked them to go sit with Sadie while Robert came up and helped me get all of my stuff and move it to the car, and we were homeward bound. Yay! Yay! And so we got home, and Sadie and my parents were here. My parents left pretty quickly after that, and we just spent the rest of Father's Day just hanging out and being a family of 4, and it was really nice. Harper met our kitty Boom, and he just kind of, I don't know, he's kind of iffy about her. He comes and he looks at her, but he doesn't get too close, and then as soon as she starts crying, he just kind of dismisses himself. So yeah, that was her first week. She spent it in the NICU, and I got to spend it with her. And so I took a lot of pictures and stuff, and so I will insert a couple pictures here at the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the first week. I have a whole list of videos that I am going to be doing as soon as I can find some time to do so, and I'm actually editing a video of our visit to the Hot Air Balloon Festival that we just had this past weekend. So I hope you guys tune in for that. If you would like to see those videos and you're not subscribed, go ahead and click the button subscribe up there, and I will see you guys for my next video. Alright, talk to you soon. Bye.